Welcome everyone. Today we explore the depths of Reddit realms, where digital campfires glow with the most compelling stories Reddit has to offer. Tonight, our adventure takes us to JustNoMIL. For those of you who are new every day, I bring you new tales from Reddit, perfect for unwinding, finding a moment of calm, or simply sharing a quiet moment during your studies. Before we embark, I invite you to share in the comments where you're joining us from, and which of today's narratives truly resonated with you. So, settle in, prepare your favorite comforting beverage, and let's begin our exploration into today's collection of experiences. My mother-in-law brought a white dress to my wedding, and I found out later it wasn't for her. So, my wedding was 2 months ago, and I'm still getting messages from people asking what really happened at the reception. Everyone has their version, but since no one seems to know the full story, here's mine. For context, I, 28F, married my husband, 30mm, in September. We've been together for 6 years, engaged for 1. I thought I had a decent relationship with his mum. Let's call her Clara. She's one of those women who always smiles with her teeth, but never with her eyes. Compliments that sound like insults. Oh, I love that you don't care about makeup. Or, you're so brave to wear something like that. Still, I tried. I really did. I wanted her to like me. When we announced our engagement, her first response was, "Already? You two haven't even lived together that long." When we picked a date, she said, "September." But that's hurricane season. When we chose a venue, a small lakeside inn, she said, "That place looks like a summer camp." You get the idea. But the real trouble started during the dress fitting. She insisted on coming, even though I didn't invite her. My mum was there, my best friend was there. And then Clara showed up with coffee for everyone, pretending like it was her idea. While I was in the fitting room, she started making comments. "That neckline's a little revealing, don't you think? White doesn't flatter everyone. Maybe ivory? Oh, sweetheart, you should stand up straighter. You're slouching in all the wrong places." I smiled, gritted my teeth, and ignored her. But when I came out of the dressing room, she was whispering to my mum, something about how it's not too late to postpone if she's not ready. I should have drawn a boundary then. Instead, I let her help with small things. Centerpieces, guest list, flowers. Mistake. Every decision I made became a discussion. And then came the dress incident. A week before the wedding, she called me and said, "I found the perfect outfit for the big day." I said, "Oh, that's great. What color?" She said, "It's cream, with beading. Very elegant." I laughed awkwardly. "You mean for the rehearsal dinner, right?" She said, "No, for the ceremony. I don't want to clash with the photos." I told her absolutely not. My mum-in-law-to-be was not showing up in white. She sounded offended, said it was just a shade, and that only insecure brides worry about that. I stood firm, and she hung up on me. The day before the wedding, she apologized. She said she'd found another dress. Navy blue, modest, appropriate. I was relieved. Spoiler, that relief didn't last long. The morning of the wedding, everything was perfect. My bridesmaids, the venue, the flowers, all of it. Then, 10 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, my maid of honor comes rushing in, whispering, "Don't freak out, but Clara's wearing white." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. When I peeked out the window toward the guests, there she was, head to toe white, long flowing gown, lace sleeves, beaded bodice. If it weren't for the big hat and pearls, she could have been the bride. My first instinct was to scream. My second was to laugh, because, of course, she did this. My dad saw my face and asked what was wrong. When I told him, he muttered, "Oh, hell no," and went to talk to her. But she just smiled sweetly and said, "I don't see what the fuss is about. I'm the mother of the groom." I decided to ignore her. I wasn't going to let her ruin my day. I walked down the aisle, eyes on my husband, and to his credit, he looked furious when he saw what his mom was wearing. After the ceremony, I pulled him aside and said, "Please tell me you didn't know she was doing this." He swore he didn't. We took photos. Every single one of them looks like a scene from a soap opera. Me in my gown, my husband looking exhausted, and his mother standing behind us like a ghost bride. But it gets worse. At the reception during the dinner speeches, Clara stood up, tapped her glass, and said she wanted to give a little toast. I should have stopped her. She said, When husband's name was a little boy, he always said he'd marry someone just like his mother. I'm so glad he finally did. There was laughter, nervous, uncomfortable laughter, and she smiled like she just won something. I wanted to crawl under the table. My husband took the mic and said, "Actually, Mum, I married someone nothing like you. That's why I'm so lucky." The room went dead silent for 3 beats, then exploded into applause. I've never loved him more. Clara smiled tightly and sat down, her wine glass shaking. For the rest of the night, she sat at the table, silent, picking at her food. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. A few days later, we got our wedding photos back. The photographer emailed me privately and said, "There's something weird you might want to see." Attached were several shots, behind-the-scenes candids. In one of them, Clara was in the corner, holding a white veil. My veil. The timestamp, 15 minutes before the ceremony. I checked my things. My veil had been moved that morning, but I thought one of the bridesmaids had adjusted it. Turns out Clara had taken it into the bathroom, tried it on, and taken selfies in the mirror. How do I know? Because the photographer caught it, and that's not even the creepiest part. A week after the wedding, my husband got a notification from the cloud storage he shares with his mum. He'd set it up years ago so she could see family photos. There was a new folder labeled Our Wedding. Inside were hundreds of pictures, not of us, but of her. Clara in the white gown, smiling. Clara holding a bouquet. Clara posing next to the altar alone. In some, she'd photoshopped herself standing beside my husband, replacing me. She even captioned one, "Finally together forever." He confronted her. She burst into tears, said it was a joke, that she was playing bride because she missed her youth. He told her to delete them all and cut off her access. She pretended to agree. Then she mailed us a scrapbook 2 weeks later, full of printed versions of those same pictures. We haven't spoken to her since. Update 3 weeks later. So, yeah, we went no contact. We changed locks, blocked her on everything. Then last night I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in delicate cursive. Inside was a wedding photo. The real one. Me and my husband smiling at the altar. But someone had taken scissors to it. My face was cut out. On the back, in blue ink, it said, "He always said white suits me better." I showed it to my husband. He went pale, called his brother and found out Clara's been telling the family that I left him, that the marriage didn't work out. We've started documenting everything. Photos, messages, the letter. We're considering a restraining order if she contacts us again. But the part that chills me most, this morning when my husband left for work, there was a bouquet on the porch, white roses wrapped in lace. No note, just a small tag that said, "From the bride." Sometimes family tradition is just another word for obsession dressed in lace. Our next story starts with a mother-in-law who offered to babysit her son's new puppy and returned something that wasn't a dog. My mother-in-law babysat our puppy and brought back a completely different dog. This story sounds fake, I know it does, but I have photos, vet records, and one traumatized husband to prove it's real. It started innocently. My husband, 32M, and I, 30F, adopted a golden retriever puppy named Maple about 6 months ago. She was our first baby, and we treated her that way. Puppy playdates, training classes, her own Instagram, the works. My mother-in-law, Teresa, was obsessed with her, and not in a normal, all-cute dog way. More like, I've finally found something to love now that my son has been stolen from me. Teresa has always been overbearing. When we bought our house, she said, "Oh, I didn't realize you moved this far. 30 minutes feels like another country." When we announced our engagement, she told me she hoped I was ready for the kind of man who needs a lot of mothering. And when we got Maple, she said, "I knew you'd have a baby before you were ready for a real one." She'd called constantly to check on the puppy. She bought Maple monogrammed sweaters, in her last name, not ours. She even tried to feed her table food behind our backs because dogs deserve real meals. We started limiting her visits. She didn't take that well. Then in late August, my husband got called out of town for a work trip, and I had a weekend seminar in another city. Teresa offered to watch Maple for 2 days, against my better judgment, and after hours of her insisting, "It'll give us a chance to bond," I agreed. I dropped Maple off on Friday morning. She wagged her tail, happy as ever. Teresa hugged her, cooed, "Grandma's got you now." And I left feeling uneasy. When I came back Sunday afternoon, the first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. Usually Maple goes ballistic when she hears my car, barking, scratching at the window. This time, nothing. Teresa opened the door, all smiles. "There's my girl," she said, but something was off. She led me into the living room. There was a golden retriever sitting on the couch, calm, silent, staring. At first glance, I thought it was Maple. Same coloring, same floppy ears. But then she turned her head. Maple had a distinct white patch on her chest. This dog didn't. I laughed nervously. "Teresa, where's Maple?" She blinked. "That's her, sweetheart." I froze. "No, it's not." She frowned, annoyed. "Don't be ridiculous. You must have forgotten how she looks. She's filled out." "Filled out? It's been 2 days." Teresa crossed her arms. "You always overreact. Dogs change as they grow." I stared at the dog. Quiet, motionless, eyes slightly cloudy. Maple was 9 months old and hyper as a toddler on sugar. This dog looked older. I called her name, Maple. Nothing. Maple always came running. I said, "Teresa, this isn't my dog." She rolled her eyes. "Well, if you're going to insult me, maybe you should leave." I left, with the dog. I called my husband on the drive home, panicking. He thought I was joking until I FaceTimed him. The second he saw the dog, his face went white. "That's not her," he said. "What the hell did my mum do?" We rushed the dog to the vet. The microchip scan confirmed it. Different number. Different dog, not Maple. The vet said the dog was older, probably rescued from a breeder or a shelter. She was healthy but anxious, like she'd been recently moved. We called Teresa immediately. She didn't pick up. That night, she finally texted, "You're welcome." That was it. No explanation. We went to her house the next morning. The front door was locked, curtains drawn. Through the window, I could see the couch was empty. No Maple. We called the police. They treated it like a custody dispute at first. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. But when we showed them the vet records, they realized this was theft. They questioned Teresa the next day. She told them Maple ran away and she found a similar dog so we wouldn't be upset. The police didn't buy it. They checked local shelters. Nothing. No found reports matching Maple's chip or description. We spent the next week driving around, posting flyers, calling vets, offering a reward. Nothing. Then one night around 11 p.m, my husband got a call from a blocked number. He answered. A woman's voice said, "Maple's fine. She's happy now." He said, "Who is this?" The line went dead. We traced the call. Couldn't. The next day, a small package showed up on our porch. No return address. Inside was Maple's collar. The pink one with her name stitched in. It was spotless. Too clean. There was also a note. "She was too good for you." We showed the police. They said the handwriting looked feminine. We told them it had to be Teresa. They questioned her again, but she swore she had no idea what we were talking about. 2 days later, my husband's brother called. He said their mum was acting weird. She'd been talking to someone in her backyard at night, carrying bowls of food into the shed. He said, "I think she's feeding stray cats or something." We drove over. The shed was padlocked, but you could hear movement inside. Soft scratching. Muffled whining. We called the police again. They forced the lock. Inside was a makeshift kennel. Blankets, food bowls, chew toys, and Maple. She was alive. Thin, terrified, shaking, but alive. When she saw us, she cried. I didn't even know dogs could cry like that. Teresa stood there, calm as ever, saying she didn't want to go home. She likes it here. They took her in for evaluation. She was released on bail. We thought that was the end, but things got worse. A week later, we started noticing strange things around our house. Maple's toys moved. A blanket went missing. One morning, I found muddy footprints outside the kitchen door. Size 7, same brand of slippers Teresa wears. We installed cameras. 3 nights later, at 2:37 a.m, she showed up. The footage shows her crouched by the back door, whispering, "Maple baby." It's Grandma. When Maple barked, she hissed, "Shh, she'll hear you." She had a leash in her hand. We called the police again. They issued a restraining order. She's not allowed within 500 feet of us or the dog. For a while it was quiet. Then last week my husband got an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. It was Maple, asleep in our living room, clearly taken through the window. On the back, she still remembers her real home. We called the police again. They're investigating. Teresa's house has been dark for days. Her car's gone. Yesterday I took Maple out to the park near our neighborhood. She loves it there, all open field and sunlight. But halfway through our walk, she stopped cold, ears up, tail stiff. I followed her gaze. Across the field near the trees stood a woman. Long coat, sunglasses, watching. Maple whimpered and pressed against my leg. When I blinked, the woman turned and walked into the woods. I called my husband right then. He told me to come home immediately. When I got back, there was another package on the porch. Smaller this time. Inside was one of Maple's baby teeth, the one the vet had given us months ago in a keepsake bag, and a note. You can't keep her forever. Update. 3 weeks later. Teresa was found 2 towns over, living out of her car behind a closed-down pet grooming salon. The police said she'd been staying there for weeks, feeding stray dogs. When they searched her car, they found photos, hundreds of them, of Maple. Sleeping, playing, eating. Some looked recent. She told them Maple belonged to her in another life. She's been committed for psychiatric evaluation. Maple's okay. She still startles at night, but she's healthy and safe. We changed our locks again, moved her microchip to a new registry, even installed extra cameras. The only thing I can't shake, the last photo in the police file they showed us. It wasn't of Maple, it was of our bedroom, taken from outside the window, and in the reflection of the glass, you can see Teresa's face, smiling. Sometimes a mother's love doesn't end, it just forgets where the line is. Our next story begins when a newlywed couple agrees to let the mother-in-law help decorate their home, and wakes up to find she's replaced the bride's wedding photo with her own. My mother-in-law offered to help decorate our new house and replaced every photo of me with herself. You know that old saying, when someone shows you who they are, believe them? I should have believed her a long time ago. This is the story of how my mother-in-law Janice turned what should have been a dream home into something out of a psychological thriller. My husband, 34M, and I, 31F, bought our first house last spring, a cozy 3-bedroom craftsman in a quiet neighborhood. We'd saved for years, and when we finally signed the papers, I cried in the kitchen because it felt like we'd actually done something together. Then Janice got involved. She's always been extra. Think big hair, perfume strong enough to declare war on oxygen, and an opinion about everything. She's not evil, just boundary impaired. When we got engaged, she said, "I'm so happy. I'll finally get my daughter." When I corrected her, "You already have one," she laughed and said, "No, I mean you." At first, it was almost flattering, until it wasn't. During wedding planning, she tried to override every decision. I wanted lilies. She ordered roses. I wanted a small guest list. She invited her entire Pilates class. I wanted ivory bridesmaid dresses. She called them funeral colors, but nothing compared to her obsession with our new house. When we closed on it, she called daily. Daily. Have you picked paint colors? Do you need help furnishing the guest room? What are you doing with the fireplace mantle? I have ideas. Her ideas were straight out of a Southern Living catalogue circa 1993. Lace curtains, gold trim, fake plants that looked dusty on arrival. My husband, bless him, tried to be diplomatic. "Mum, we'll decorate it ourselves." Her response, "You're young. You don't know how to make a home cozy." Still, I wanted to keep the peace, so when she offered to help unpack while we were both working late shifts, I reluctantly agreed. She had a spare key. That was mistake number 1. When I came home that night, the house smelled like cinnamon potpourri and candle wax. My living room looked like it belonged to someone's grandma. Doilies, decorative pillows that said, "Bless this mess," and a framed cross-stitch that read, "Mother knows best." My wedding photo, the one of me and my husband laughing under the arch, was gone from the mantle. In its place, a framed photo of my husband as a baby, held by her. I asked, trying to sound polite. "Where's our photo?" She smiled. "Oh, I put it in a safer spot. That one's too nice for dust." She tucked it inside a kitchen cabinet. That was mistake number 2, letting her see my anger. Because from then on, it became a game to her. Every time she visited, something changed. Little things at first, a throw blanket swapped out, candles replaced, curtains shortened, then bigger. One day, my framed college diploma vanished from the hallway. When I asked, she said, "Oh honey, the glare from the glass was awful. I moved it somewhere better." It was behind the laundry room door. In its old spot, a framed photo of her and my husband at Disneyland. When I confronted her again, she tilted her head and said, "I think you're being a little sensitive. You know how family photos make a house feel warm?" My husband told her to stop. She cried. The "how could you say that to your own mother" tears that somehow make you feel like the villain. So we set boundaries. No more unannounced visits, no decorating without asking. No moving photos, she promised. A week later, we came home from work and found her car in the driveway. The door was unlocked. Inside, every wall had been rearranged. Furniture moved, rugs shifted, our bedroom closet cleaned out. And there, above the bed, hung a massive framed picture of her and my husband from his high school graduation. I lost it. "What the hell, Janice?" She flinched, genuinely shocked. "I was just helping. It felt so cold in here. You should thank me." I told her to leave. She refused. My husband had to physically walk her out. She shouted over her shoulder, "This is my family's house too." He changed the locks the next day. 2 weeks of peace. Then strange things started happening. Our living room clock would reset to midnight. The thermostat changed itself, always to 72, her favorite temperature. One morning, I came downstairs and found a casserole dish cooling on the counter. We hadn't cooked. When I checked the doorbell camera, it had been unplugged. I reconnected it. That night, around 2:00 a.m., the motion alert went off. The footage showed a figure, short, broad-shouldered, standing at the edge of the porch, facing the window, holding a photo frame. When the light hit, I saw what it was, our wedding photo. She'd brought it back. I woke my husband. He didn't believe me until he saw the footage. We called her immediately. She answered on the second ring, voice syrupy sweet. "Oh, you found it. I told you I just borrowed it to make a copy." He said, "Mom, stop coming over. It's not okay." She said, "You'll thank me one day when I'm gone." Then she hung up. The next morning, every photo in our hallway had been flipped backward in its frame. We filed a police report. Not that they could do much. She technically hadn't broken in. The back window latch was faulty. We reinforced everything, added better cameras, even put motion lights in the yard. And then one afternoon, my husband called me at work sounding panicked. "You need to come home." When I got there, the front door was wide open. The walls looked wrong, like the house was covered in new memories that didn't belong to us. Every frame, every single one, contained her. Her wedding photos, her baby photos, her high school portraits. Our entire gallery had been replaced. And the creepiest part, each photo had been edited. She'd taken pictures of me and photoshopped herself over my face. The one of me and my husband dancing at the reception, her face on mine. The one of our family dog sitting on my lap, her face smiling down. Some of them were poorly done, warped proportions, mismatched skin tone. But one, the biggest one in the living room, made my stomach drop. It was the two of us, her and my husband, in our wedding attire. Same backdrop, same pose, only my face was gone entirely. Not replaced, just blurred out. The frame was nailed into the wall. I couldn't breathe. My husband pulled it down, threw it in the trash and said, "We're getting out of here tonight." We stayed at a hotel for 3 days while we figured out what to do. When we returned, the house was spotless, almost too spotless. Someone had vacuumed, wiped down surfaces, even left a vase of flowers on the counter. There was a note taped to the fridge. "Don't worry, I cleaned up after myself. The house finally feels like home." We called her again. No answer. Her phone went straight to voicemail for a week. Then her sister called to say Janice had gone to stay with friends out of state for a while. We thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. A month later, we started getting strange mail. Packages with no return address, photo envelopes. Each contained reprints of our wedding photos, but all of them slightly off. In every one, my face was faintly transparent, like I was fading out of the picture. Then came the one that broke me. It was a single 8x10 print of our living room, current exactly how it looked that morning. But on the couch sat Janice, smiling. The timestamp on the photo metadata, 2:13 a.m. the night before. We checked the cameras. The feed for that time was corrupted. That night we didn't sleep. Around 4 a.m., the motion sensor went off again. My husband grabbed the flashlight and opened the curtains. Nothing. Except the photo on the wall, one we hadn't noticed before, had changed. It was a picture of me and him smiling, but she was standing behind us now. That's when we decided to move. We sold the house 2 months later. Cheap. New locks, fresh paint, new city. I thought that was the end. Last week we got a letter forwarded from our old address. It had no name, just a return sticker that said "From Home." Inside was a small Polaroid. It showed the front of our new house, and taped to the bottom corner of the photo, where the shadow of the front window fell, was a single word written in marker. Almost. Update. 6 months later, we moved again, changed our numbers. My husband deleted his social media. We haven't heard from Janice since, or so we thought. 2 nights ago, we hosted a small dinner with neighbors. One of them brought dessert, lemon bars, my favorite. She said a nice older lady down the street had dropped them off, saying they were for the new couple in the blue house. We don't live in a blue house. When we opened the box, there was 1 lemon bar missing, and underneath the wax paper, a folded photo. It was our wedding picture. My face, again, blurred. And in the background, faintly visible through the distortion, Janice, standing just behind my husband, smiling. Sometimes love turns into ownership. Sometimes it paints the walls with someone else's life. Our next story starts when a new mother lets her mother-in-law help with the nursery and discovers she's built a room that isn't for the baby, it's for herself. My mother-in-law insisted on designing our baby's nursery and built a room for herself instead. I thought the stories on JustNoMIL were exaggerated. I really did. I used to read them and think, no one's mother-in-law is that unhinged. Then I got pregnant. I, 29F, married my husband, 33M, 3 years ago. His mom, Elaine, was overly involved from day one, opinionated, emotional, and obsessed with her son in a way that always made me uncomfortable. She's the type who calls him her soulmate in a half-joking tone that's only half a joke. At our wedding, she gave a speech that started with, "I raised my son to be the man of my dreams, and now I have to share him with another woman." People laughed. I didn't. After we announced the pregnancy, she took that intensity and turned it up to 11. She called every day, every single day. "How are you feeling? What are you craving? Have you picked names? Oh, I already have a few ideas." When I told her we weren't sharing the name until the birth, she pouted and said, "You're shutting me out of my own grandchild's life." She started referring to my bump as our baby. At first, I brushed it off. I told myself, she's just excited. But as my due date got closer, her excitement started to feel like possession. When we found out we were having a girl, she cried, actual tears, and said, "I finally get my second chance." I asked what she meant. She said, "I always wanted a daughter, but I suppose I can settle for a granddaughter." I should have known then that something was brewing. When we started preparing the nursery, she offered to help. I hesitated. We live about 30 minutes from her, and I didn't want her constantly hovering. But my husband, ever the peacekeeper, said, "It'll mean a lot to her. Let her paint or something." So I agreed. Biggest mistake of my life. We gave her 1 weekend, just one. She said she'd surprise us with decorations and put the finishing touches on the room. When we came back Sunday evening, she was sitting in the nursery rocker, humming softly, like she'd been there all day. At first glance, it was beautiful. Soft pink walls, cream curtains, gold accents. Everything matched. But as I looked closer, something felt wrong. The framed art wasn't baby-themed. It was all family photos, except not ours. Every frame showed my husband at different ages. Him as a toddler, him at prom, him holding a fish. Not a single photo of me. And above the crib, in looping gold cursive, was a wooden sign that said, "Grandma's little girl." I stared at it. "Why does it say Grandma's little girl?" She smiled innocently. "Because she'll always be mine too." I laughed, awkwardly. "I think you meant to write Mommy's little girl?" She looked genuinely offended. "Oh, I don't want to leave you out, honey, but it's my job to make her feel loved by the whole family. Don't be territorial." Territorial, for wanting my baby's room to acknowledge I existed. That night, I told my husband we needed boundaries. He agreed, sort of. He said, "She's just overexcited. She'll calm down once the baby's here." She didn't calm down. The day we came home from the hospital, she was already waiting in our driveway. She had balloons, food, and an overnight bag. I said, "You didn't need to do all this." She said, "I didn't. It's what grandmothers do." She stayed for 5 days, uninvited. Every time I tried to nurse or put the baby down, she'd hover. "Here, let me show you how to do it right." "You're holding her too tight." She looks more relaxed when I do it. When I told her I needed rest, she said, "Oh honey, you rest. I'll take the baby." One night, I woke up to find the bassinet empty. My heart stopped. I tore through the house until I found Elaine in the nursery, rocking my newborn, whispering, "Grandma's here. Mommy's sleeping." I said, "Give her to me." She smiled sweetly. She fell asleep so fast in my arms. Maybe she likes me better. I wanted to scream, but I didn't want to wake the baby. The next day, we told her she had to leave. She acted shocked, teary, saying I was only trying to help. A week passed. Peace, finally. Then we noticed little things. The nursery light would be on in the morning, even though we hadn't been in there. The baby monitor, which we left unplugged, would make faint static sounds at night. At first, we blamed ourselves, new parents, sleep deprivation. But one morning when I went to change the baby, I found a note in the crib. It said, "She smiled at me today. She knows who her real mommy is." I called my husband in tears. He swore he didn't know how it got there. We checked the cameras. Nothing. No motion, no entry. That afternoon, the spare key we'd given Elaine was missing from the drawer. We changed the locks immediately. We also confronted her. She played innocent, of course. "You think I broke into your house? I would never." But her tone was all indignation, no hurt. Then she said something that chilled me. "I had a dream about her last night. She called me Mama. Isn't that sweet?" We cut off contact after that. No calls, no visits. She sent cards, dozens of them. Each one addressed to the baby, not us. "Grandma loves you more than anyone ever could. Someday you'll understand why Grandma had to do what she did." We stopped opening them. 3 months later, my husband had to travel for work for a week. I was nervous about being alone, but I told myself it was fine. We had security cameras, neighbors, everything. The second night he was gone, the baby started crying around 2 a.m. I went into the nursery and froze. The rocking chair was moving. Not fast, just slowly, back and forth. I turned the light on. The chair stopped. On the seat was a photo, printed glossy. It showed Elaine sitting in the same chair, holding the baby. Except that never happened. The background was the same, the baby's outfit the same, but the lighting was off, like it was stitched together from 2 different photos. I checked the camera footage. The feed from the nursery between 1:50 and 2:10 a.m. was gone, just static. I called my husband sobbing. He booked an early flight home. That morning, I took the baby to my mum's house. When we returned later that afternoon, the nursery door was closed. I opened it and screamed. Every wall had been repainted. The pink was gone. In its place, pale lavender. And on the wall above the crib, the gold cursive sign had been replaced. Now it read, "Mommy's room." Not Mommy's little girl, just Mommy's room. There were new photos too, not in frames, just taped to the walls. Dozens of pictures of Elaine holding babies over the years. None of them were ours. On the dresser sat a baby monitor, an old one, different brand. It wasn't ours. When I picked it up, the speaker crackled. A woman's voice said softly, "Shh, Grandma's here." I dropped it. We called the police. They found signs of forced entry on a back window, but when they ran prints, they came back smudged. Elaine denied everything. She said she hadn't been near our house in weeks. that maybe someone was trying to make her look bad. They couldn't prove it was her. We moved 2 weeks later. We didn't tell anyone the new address, except my husband's work and our pediatrician. We installed cameras, alarms, everything. Months passed. The baby grew. For the first time, things felt normal, until her first birthday. That morning, there was a box on our doorstep. No return address. Just a small card taped to the top. "Happy birthday, my angel." Inside was a tiny hand-knit blanket, lavender, with the initials EH stitched into the corner. Elaine's initials. We called the police again. They opened a case for stalking, but nothing came of it. That night, the baby wouldn't sleep. She kept staring at the nursery door, whimpering. I told myself it was teething. I finally got her down around 11:30. When I woke up at 3 a.m., the monitor was glowing. Someone was singing on the other end. Not a lullaby, I knew. Something old, low, and off-key. I ran to the nursery. The window was open. The blanket, the lavender one, was draped over the crib, but the baby was safe, still asleep. On the rocking chair sat another photo. This one showed Elaine standing outside our house. The timestamp on the file metadata, 3:02 a.m. We filed another report. They put extra patrols in the area. A week later, the neighbor across the street, a retired guy who walks his dog early, said he saw a woman in a bathrobe standing in our driveway around 2:30 a.m. He called out to her, but she didn't respond. When he got closer, she turned and walked into the trees. He said she was holding something small and wrapped in a blanket. That night, my husband and I packed up and went to a hotel. We decided to stay there until we could move again. But before we left, I went into the nursery one last time to grab a few things. The baby monitor light was blinking. It shouldn't have been. It wasn't plugged in. I picked it up and a voice whispered through the speaker, "Don't take her away again." We moved states a month later. New house, new locks, new everything. We changed our names in the phone registry. We haven't heard from Elaine since until 2 days ago. I got an envelope in the mail with no return address. Inside was a single Polaroid. It showed the nursery from our old house, only now it was empty. No crib, no toys, just that same rocking chair. And sitting in it, smiling at the camera, was Elaine, holding a lavender blanket. On the back, written in neat, shaky handwriting, "Grandma's room is ready again." Update. 5 months later. We contacted a lawyer and filed for a restraining order that covers all 50 states. We've even considered changing our last name, but the thing that scares me most isn't the letters, or the photos, or even the idea of her finding us again. It's the fact that last night, when I was putting the baby to bed, she looked at the corner of the room and started waving. I said, "Who are you waving to, sweetheart?" She smiled and whispered, "Grandma." The monitor light turned on by itself, and faintly through the static, I heard that same low humming, the same lullaby.